The 13-year-old cancer patient thought she was hallucinating when Sammy Davis Jr. walked into her hospital room. Doctors had given her weeks to live, but what happened after his surprise visit defied everything they knew about medicine. It was September 23, 1978, at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and 13-year-old Lisa Martinez was dying. The acute lymphoblastic leukemia that had been ravaging her body for 2 years was finally winning, and her oncologist, Dr. Sarah Richardson, had given her family the devastating news that morning. Lisa had maybe 2 weeks left, possibly less. But Lisa wasn't thinking about dying. She was watching Ocean's 11 on the small television mounted in her hospital room, completely mesmerized by Sammy Davis Jr.'s performance. Even through the fog of pain medication and the exhaustion of her failing body, Lisa's eyes lit up whenever Sammy appeared on screen. "Mom," Lisa whispered to her mother, Carmen, who was sitting beside the bed. "He makes everything seem possible, doesn't he? Even when things are really bad." Carmen Martinez felt her heart breaking. Her daughter had been obsessed with Sammy Davis Jr. for the past year, ever since she'd discovered his movies and music during one of her long hospital stays. Lisa had watched every Sammy Davis Jr. film the hospital's entertainment cart had to offer, sometimes multiple times. She'd memorized the lyrics to Mr. Bojangles and The Candyman, singing them softly to herself during the worst days of chemotherapy. "He does, mija," Carmen said, stroking Lisa's thinning hair. "He makes everything seem like it's going to be okay." But things were not going to be okay. Dr. Richardson had been clear about that. The experimental treatments had failed. The cancer had spread beyond what any therapy could control. Lisa's body was simply too weak to fight anymore. Carmen and her husband Roberto had made the difficult decision to stop aggressive treatment and focus on keeping Lisa comfortable in her final days. But how do you tell a 13-year-old that you're giving up? How do you explain to a child who still believed in magic that there's no more magic left to try? That afternoon, while Lisa slept fitfully, Carmen found herself in the hospital chapel, praying to a God she wasn't sure was listening anymore. She wasn't asking for a miracle. She'd given up on those weeks ago. She was asking for peace, for a gentle passage for her little girl, for some sign that Lisa's short life had meant something. She was also thinking about Lisa's biggest wish, the one she'd mentioned repeatedly over the past month. She wanted to meet Sammy Davis Jr., to tell him how much his performances had meant to her during the darkest period of her life. Carmen had tried everything. She'd written letters to his management company, called television studios, even reached out to local radio stations. But how do you reach a superstar when you're just a working-class family from Philadelphia with a dying daughter? How do you get Sammy Davis Jr.'s attention when millions of people want the same thing? What Carmen didn't know was that her letters had reached someone who cared. 3 days earlier, Maria Santos, a secretary at Sammy's management office in Los Angeles, had been sorting through the usual stack of fan mail when Lisa's story stopped her cold. It wasn't just another request for an autograph or a photo. It was a mother's desperate plea, written with the raw honesty of someone who had nothing left to lose. Carmen had written about Lisa's love for Sammy's music, about how The Candyman was the only thing that could make her smile during chemotherapy, about how she would lip-sync to Mr. Bojangles when the pain was too bad to speak. She'd written about watching Lisa practice Sammy's dance moves in her hospital bed, using just her arms because her legs were too weak to support her. "Mr. Davis," Carmen had written, "I know you get thousands of letters like this, and I know you can't help everyone. But my daughter is dying and she loves you more than anything in the world. If there's any way, any chance at all, that she could meet you before, I would be grateful for the rest of my life." Maria Santos had been working in entertainment for 15 years, and she'd seen plenty of tragic fan letters. But something about Carmen's words, about the love and desperation between every line, made her break protocol. Instead of filing the letter with the standard "thanks for your interest" response, she walked directly to Sammy's dressing room. Sammy was preparing for his show at Caesar's Palace that night, but when Maria handed him the letter and he read it, everything else stopped mattering. "When did this come in?" Sammy asked, his voice quiet. 3 days ago. I know we usually handle these through the office, but I thought—" "You thought right," Sammy interrupted. "Get me a phone, now." Within an hour, Sammy had spoken to Dr. Richardson at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, learned about Lisa's condition, and made a decision that shocked everyone in his entourage. "Cancel tomorrow's show," he told his manager, Joe Grant. "I'm going to Philadelphia." "Sammy, you can't cancel Caesars. There are contracts, obligations." "Joe," Sammy said, his voice firm but calm, "there's a 13-year-old girl dying in a hospital, and she's spending her last days watching my movies. I'm going to see her." The next morning, September 23rd, Sammy Davis Jr. was on a plane to Philadelphia, carrying a small bag and a guitar case, flying across the country to meet a fan he'd never heard of until the day before. Dr. Richardson was waiting for him at the hospital, still barely believing that one of the world's biggest entertainers was about to walk into her pediatric oncology ward. "I need to prepare you," Dr. Richardson said as they walked through the halls. "Lisa is very sick. She's on heavy pain medication, and she drifts in and out of consciousness. She might not even recognize you." "That's okay," Sammy said. "I'm not here for me. I'm here for her." Lisa was sleeping when they approached her room. Carmen was sitting beside the bed, holding her daughter's hand, whispering a prayer. She looked up when Dr. Richardson knocked softly on the doorframe. "Mrs. Martinez," Dr. Richardson said gently, "there's someone here who wants to meet Lisa." Carmen turned toward the door and gasped. Standing beside the doctor was Sammy Davis Jr., looking exactly like he did in the movies Lisa loved so much, wearing a simple black suit and carrying a guitar case. "Oh my God," Carmen whispered, tears immediately filling her eyes. "Oh my God, you came." "Of course I came," Sammy said, walking into the room. "How could I not come?" Lisa was still sleeping, looking tiny and frail in the hospital bed. Her skin was pale from months of treatment, and her once thick black hair was now wispy and thin. But even in sleep, there was something peaceful about her face, something that reminded Sammy of his own childhood battles with illness and adversity. "She's beautiful," Sammy said quietly to Carmen. "Tell me about her." For the next 20 minutes, Carmen told Sammy everything. About Lisa's diagnosis 2 years earlier, about the treatments and the setbacks, about how his music and movies had become her daughter's escape from the reality of cancer. She told him about Lisa singing The Candy Man during her worst chemotherapy sessions, about how she would watch Robin and the Seven Hoods over and over because Sammy's energy made her forget she was sick. "She says you make everything seem possible," Carmen said through her tears. "She says watching you perform makes her feel like she could do anything." Sammy sat down beside Lisa's bed and gently took her hand. "Lisa," he said softly. "Lisa, sweetheart, can you wake up for me?" Lisa's eyes fluttered open slowly. For a moment she looked confused, disoriented by the medication and the unfamiliar voice. Then she focused on the face beside her bed, and her eyes went wide with shock. "Mom," she whispered, not taking her eyes off Sammy. "Am I dreaming?" "No, mija," Carmen said, crying and laughing at the same time. "You're not dreaming." "Hi, Lisa," Sammy said, his own voice thick with emotion. "I heard you're a fan of my work." Lisa stared at him for a long moment, as if she couldn't quite process what was happening. Then, despite her weakness, despite the pain she was in, she smiled the biggest smile Carmen had seen in months. "You're really here," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're really, really here." "I'm really here," Sammy confirmed, "and I brought my guitar, because I heard you like to sing along to my songs." What happened next would be talked about by the hospital staff for decades. Sammy Davis Jr. opened his guitar case right there in the pediatric oncology ward and began to play Mr. Bojangles for an audience of one 13-year-old girl. But this wasn't the polished professional performance that millions had seen in concert halls and on television. This was intimate, gentle, perfect for a hospital room. Sammy sang directly to Lisa, making eye contact, adjusting his volume to match her energy, turning the song into a conversation between performer and fan. And Lisa, despite being barely strong enough to keep her eyes open, began to sing along. Her voice was weak and hoarse from medication, but she knew every word, every inflection. As they sang together, something magical happened in that hospital room. Dr. Richardson, who had been watching from the doorway, later said she'd never seen anything like it. Lisa, who had been listless and barely responsive for days, was suddenly alert, engaged, more present than she'd been in weeks. When the song ended, Lisa was crying, but they were tears of joy, not pain. "Thank you," she said to Sammy. "Thank you for coming. I can't believe you're really here." "Thank you for being such an amazing fan," Sammy replied. "Your mom told me how much my music means to you, but I want you to know something. You mean something to me now too." Sammy spent the next 2 hours with Lisa. He played 4 more songs, told her stories about making movies with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, and answered every question she had about show business. But more importantly, he talked to her about life, about courage, about the importance of fighting even when everything seems impossible. "You know what I learned when I was young," Sammy told her. "I learned that sometimes the strongest people are the ones who are going through the hardest things. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." "I don't feel strong," Lisa said. "I feel scared." "Being scared doesn't mean you're not strong," Sammy said. "It means you're human. But look what you've done. You've been fighting this disease for 2 years. You've been in and out of hospitals. You've gone through treatments that would knock down grown men. And you're still here, still smiling, still singing. That's not weak, Lisa. That's incredible." When it was time for Sammy to leave, he made Lisa a promise. "I want you to keep fighting," he said. "I want you to keep singing, keep believing in possibilities. And I promise you this, whether you're here or anywhere else, I'm going to be thinking about you every time I perform. You're going to be part of every show I do from now on." Lisa held his hand as tightly as her weak grip would allow. "Will I see you again?" she asked. "I hope so," Sammy said honestly. "I really hope so." After Sammy left, something changed in Lisa. Dr. Richardson noticed it immediately. The patient who had been barely responsive was suddenly asking questions about her treatment, wanting to know about possible therapies, talking about things she wanted to do when she got better. "It's like she remembered she wants to live," Dr. Richardson told Carmen. Over the next week, Lisa's condition began to stabilize. Her blood counts, which had been dropping steadily for months, leveled off. Her appetite improved. She started asking to get out of bed, to walk around the halls. Dr. Richardson was cautiously optimistic but puzzled. There was no medical explanation for Lisa's sudden improvement. The cancer was still there, but her body seemed to be responding differently, fighting back in ways it hadn't before. 3 weeks after Sammy's visit, Dr. Richardson delivered news that no one had dared hope for. Lisa was showing signs of remission. The cancer that had been aggressively spreading just a month earlier was retreating. "I can't explain it medically," Dr. Richardson told the Martinez family. "Something has changed in Lisa's system, something that's allowing her body to fight back effectively." Lisa had her own explanation. "Mr. Sammy gave me his strength," she told her parents. "When he sang to me, when he told me I was strong, I started believing it too." 6 months later, Lisa was in complete remission. A year later, she was declared cancer-free. But her relationship with Sammy Davis Jr. was just beginning. Sammy kept in touch with the Martinez family through letters and phone calls. When Lisa was well enough to travel, he arranged for her and her parents to come to Las Vegas to see him perform. She got to watch from the wings as he did his show, and that night he dedicated Mr. Bojangles to a very special young lady who taught me what real courage looks like. As Lisa grew up, Sammy became a mentor and friend. He encouraged her interest in performing, helped her get into music programs, and continued to support her education. When she graduated high school in 1983, Sammy was there in the audience. But perhaps most importantly, Sammy's experience with Lisa inspired him to create the Little Lights Foundation, a program dedicated to visiting sick children in hospitals across the country. Over the next decade, Sammy and other entertainers made hundreds of hospital visits, bringing music and hope to children facing serious illnesses. Lisa Martinez grew up to become a pediatric nurse, specializing in oncology. She works at the same hospital where she was treated, helping other children face the same battles she once fought. "Every day I try to give kids the same thing Mr. Sammy gave me," Lisa says, "hope. The belief that they're stronger than they think they are. that tomorrow might be better than today. In her office at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, Lisa keeps a framed photo from that September day in 1978. It shows a 13-year-old girl in a hospital bed, holding hands with Sammy Davis Jr., both of them smiling like they'd discovered some wonderful secret. "People ask me if I really believe that Mr. Sammy's visit saved my life," Lisa says. "I tell them I don't know about the medical science of it, but I know that before he came, I was ready to give up. After he left, I remembered that I wanted to live. Sometimes that's all the difference you need." When Sammy Davis Jr. died in 1990, Lisa was one of his pallbearers. At the funeral, she sang "Mr. Bojangles," the song that had brought them together, the song that had given her the strength to keep fighting when fighting seemed impossible. Today, the Little Lights Foundation continues Sammy's work, having visited over 10,000 sick children in hospitals around the world. And in the pediatric oncology ward at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, there's a small plaque that reads, "In memory of the visit that started it all, September 23, 1978. Sometimes the greatest medicine is simply knowing that someone cares." If this incredible story of unexpected compassion, miraculous recovery, and the healing power of human connection moved you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to remember that sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't found in a pharmacy. Have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment when simple human kindness seemed to create impossible change? Let us know in the comments about the times when caring made all the difference. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the moments when love and hope triumph over despair.